Jayamanatiravanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamanatira Vanachadi Jamanatira Vanachadi Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Hari Vidagacharya Astatara Satasi Simadas Divine Grace Sri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We've been reading in the evenings from disappeared. Canto 10, Chapter 11. And what's the subject matter? Who would like to summarize while I'm looking for the program? What's the topic?
So, after all the disturbances that happened at Gokul, like Utana coming, Shakatasura, Trinavarta, and then the twin Yamala Arjuna trees falling down. Upananda, the older brother of Nanda Maharaj, he's discussing with the people of Praja to see if they can move to Vrindavan. And his reasoning for moving is, is thinking about the safety of the children, and also the cows have, eaten all the grasses and everything, and there is a lush green grass for the cows on the other side of Yamuna. So, and they consult Purnamasi, and Purnamasi says yes, and they all overnight they prepare after feeding the calves, milking the cows, and then they all begin their journey towards Vrindavan. And there are multiple points of crossing the Yamuna. One is a little north of Mathura, and one is little 8 miles north of Mathura. So they plan to cross away from Kamsa's area so that they don't want any disturbance. And they cross, and they reach Vrindavan, the area which is 8 by 16 square miles forest. And they put their tent, or they construct their the staying place, and then they also put the fence around. And Kṛṣṇa and Balaram are very happy seeing the Govardhan, river Yamuna. So,
What's the verse that I ended up? Do you have your notes? 36?
yes, yes.
Pardon me. Okay. 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 So we're beginning with a commentary written by Sanatana Goswami. In case there's somebody here that's not familiar with Sanatana Goswami, the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were many and very elevated devotees. Amongst them all, the next in disciplic line from Lord Chaitanya is Sanatana Goswami. So he wrote what one might call a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam in a very interesting manner. It's now published by the BBT with commentary by Sanatana Goswami as well in the English language. And this, what we're reading from, is the very, very beginning portion, where Sanatana Goswami is describing the place where he is in Vrindavan, the place of Kṛṣṇa. And he goes into some details about Vrindavan Dham. That the context is Kṛṣṇa and Balaram and the cowherd community have now moved to Vrindavan, and Sanatana Goswami is describing Vrindavan. So, all glories to this place where we are living, because he was writing while living in Vrindavan. Lord Murari's Vrindavan forest, he prefers here to residing in Vaikuntha, or in the hearts of elevated saints in Vrindavan. While always tending his cows, he gives pleasure to the gopis whose love for him, in the mood of the rasa dance, he increases by sweetly playing his flute. And his commentary, so he wrote the text and he also wrote a commentary for the text. Sri Brajabhumi, the most sacred part of Mathura district, is where the Supreme Personality of Godhead displays his exceptionally sweet pastimes. Within Brajabhumi, 3 places are very special. And it refers to a verse that's in this chapter 11, text 36. There's 3 places. The 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam first mentions these 3 places when Kṛṣṇa and Balaram move from Mahavan to avoid the dangers developing there. Quote, "O King Parikshit, when Rama and Kṛṣṇa saw Vrindavan, Govardhan, and the banks of the river Jamuna, they both enjoyed great pleasure." Since these 3 places are most dear to Kṛṣṇa, Srila Sanatana Goswami praises them, beginning with Sri Vrindavan, in the hope of getting their mercy. Jayati, all glories, is repeated in this verse to express the super excellence of Vrindavan and the great joy the author feels in glorifying Vrindavan. Again, the proximate pronoun is used, etat, or this, to indicate that Srila Sanatana Goswami was living in Vrindavan forest while writing this book. In Vrindavan, the Supreme Lord displays his special beauty and loving mood. He shows nowhere else. Therefore, the Lord's most expert devotees are more pleased by his presence in Vrindavan than by his presence in Vaikuntha or in the hearts of yogis. Kṛṣṇa is eternally perceivable for his perfect devotees in Vrindavan, which is supremely attractive for them because of his unequaled beauty and the endless flow of the all-attractive pastimes he displays there. No such overwhelming ecstatic experience is found in the heart of a yogi or in the official kingdom of God. Paragraph. Sometimes the personality of Godhead is present in his other abodes without showing himself, but never so in Vrindavan, as mentioned in regard to text 4, that's the previous to this verse. Lord Hari is always present in Mathura, Nityam Sanihito Harihi. But the word for, quote, present, Sanihitaha, can also be understood to mean hidden. In Mathura, the Lord, although present, may be hidden. In contrast, even after Kṛṣṇa and Balaram transferred themselves to Mathura, the ladies of Mathura described the Lord's wandering throughout Brajabhumi in the present tense, implying that he was still manifest there as he is now and always. And then he refers to Bhagavatam 10, chapter 44. How pious are the tracts of land in Vrindavan, for there the primeval Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, disguising himself with human traits, wanders about enacting many pastimes. His feet are worshipped by Lord Shiva and the goddess Rama. Adorned with wonderfully variegated forest garlands, he vibrates his flute as he tends the cows in the company of Balaram. As described by Srila Sanatana Goswami in the current verse, Kṛṣṇa is always busy tending his cows in the Vrindavan forest. At the same time, he manages to keep the gopis, headed by Sri Radhika, immersed in complete happiness by always finding opportunities to engage with them in the rasa dance and other loving pastimes. When he plays his flute, whose charming sound attracts the entire universe, his outward purpose is to called the cows. But simultaneously, he awakens the gopis' anticipation of their later enjoyment with him. Certainly, his main purpose in playing his flute is to increase the gopis' ecstasy, since expanding the enjoyment of loving exchanges with devotees in this and other relationships is the ultimate reason for his appearance on earth. Herding cows and flirting with young girls are but means to this end. And we're now going to read from Gopal Champu. Gopal Champu is written by Jiva Goswami. He's the younger member of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, nephew of Sanatan Goswami, and I think you're going to like his writing style. This is also a summary of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, but it's written in a certain literary style called Champu, and it's meant to be sung. And sometimes there's different features that fall within a Champu that he describes. Sometimes it's just directly quoting verses. Sometimes it's little phrases, and then a longer phrase, and then a little phrase, and a longer phrase. And there's a certain pattern that the Champu style follows. The speaker is Madhukanta, a Brahmin disciple of Narada Muni, and his brother is asking questions because that's the format, questions, answers. So he's describing, prompted by Snigdhakanta's questions, Madhukanta is describing Krishna in Vrindavan, and in the audience are the Vrijbasis. It's contemporary. So this is from the section called Radha and Krishna are United. Radha said, "The poets say that even though the most exalted woman has her desires fulfilled, some desires remain. But by some fate, such desire has arisen in us." Vishaka said, "What is it?" Radha said, "That very personality who stole away my heart during my youth is now again my master." Those of you that are familiar with Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is Rupa Goswami's writing in Jagannath Puri when Lord Chaitanya would cite a particular verse that no one could understand, but he could understand, and so he wrote a companion verse to what Lord Chaitanya is reciting, and this is Rupa Goswami, his writing. It's right in Chaitanya Charitamrita twice. "That very personality who stole away my heart during my youth is now again my master. These are the same moonlight nights of the month of Chaitra. The same fragrance as of malati flowers is there. The same sweet breezes are blowing from the Kadamba forest. And our intimate relationship, I am also the same lover, yet my mind is not happy here. I am eager to go back to that place on the bank of the Reva, under the Vatasi tree. That is my desire." This is the mood of Rath Yatra. It's Radha and the residents of Vrindavan wanting Krishna to come back with them from Kurukshetra, from the solar eclipse, to come back to Vrindavan. Because he's come all the way from Dwarka, and they see him in his regal attire, and it's not right. The mood isn't the same. Please come back to Vrindavan with us. Hearing these words from his hiding place, Krishna emerged and embraced Radha with his arms. He said, "Oh, dear Radha, you have spoken well. You have spoken well. But instead of on the bank of the Reva under the Vatasi tree, you should say on the bank of the Jamuna, in a bower. I am anxious to go to that Vrindavan on the excellent southern bank of the Jamuna, shining with the essence of your beautiful, youthful pastimes where our forefathers walked. When Kṛṣṇa was considering this, Purnamasi arrived with Vrinda. When she arrived, she looked at Vrinda's face and said, "Oh, Kṛṣṇa, moon of Vrindavan, Vrinda is making a request." Bhagavatam says, quote, "Oh, King Parikshit, when Rama and Kṛṣṇa saw Vrindavan, Govardhan, and the banks of the river Jamuna, they both enjoyed great pleasure. That place on the southern bank of the Yamuna, with Govardhan, Yamuna and the bank of the Yamuna is my dwelling place. Without that, I become withered. Please decorate this place with your feet endowed with moon-like toenails." Accepting this proposal with greed, taking permission from Purnamasi and Vrinda, he went to Braja to inform Nanda. Radha and Purnamasi also went. So this is a section of the Gopal Champu where he's describing the coming together again of Radha and Kṛṣṇa. This is, from one of the final chapters of the 10th canto is this Kurukshetra solar eclipse, and so it's an important pastime connected to Vrindavan. So they're going to announce to Nanda they're going to go back to Vrindavan. Gopal Champu. Here's another section of Gopal Champu where Jiva Goswami is describing Vrindavan directly. The glorious forest named Vrindavan begins a great auspiciousness to the earth goddess. This forest has the power to deliver all living beings in all the worlds. The mere touch of its purifying breeze washes away all troubles. That touch opens the bolt on the door in the prison of the three Vargas: economic development, sense gratification, and material piety. And it carries away the fragrance of impersonal liberation. That is to say, people in the material world that are interested in Dharma, there are those that aren't. But those that are, they're interested in the fruits of Dharma in terms of artha and kama. So they're bolted in a prison of trying to achieve those things. So Vrindavan takes away that bolt, and even the scent, that which allures some people for impersonal liberation, that's dismissed also. So it opens the door to love of God. Just saying in very poetic language. With its great glories, it unties the bond of impersonal liberation, although in other places the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not easily give the gift of devotional service. In the land of Vrindavan, he easily gives it away. In his heart, the demigod Brahma yearned to attain even a lowly birth in Vrindavan. He thought his contact with Vrindavan was the beginning of his own glorious good fortune. The ways of Vrindavan are very mysterious. They are like the poetic ornament Virodha Alankara. We heard this term before. Virodha means a contradiction. And alankara is an ornament, a literary ornament. So the literary ornament of contradiction is found abundant in Vrindavan. It's part of the mystery of Vrindavan. It's just a nice way of saying it's a very mysterious place, where this meets that seems to be contradictory, but it just then inspires love. Like, Radha will say something harsh to Krishna, and Krishna will like it. It's contradiction, and etc. Where what seems a contradiction is resolved in the end. Even if their authors lack poetic skill, poems about Vrindavan are glorious. That is because in those poems is an awareness of what is truly important and glorious. To help the people of this world, blissful Lord Krishna, the son of Nanda, descends again and again to the realm of Vrindavan. In this way, a great festival of bliss always fills Vrindavan. Srila Shukadeva Goswami says, Vrindavan is filled with wonderful bliss. And here's our quote. O King Parikshit, when Rama and Krishna saw Vrindavan, Govardhan, and the banks of the river Yamuna, they both enjoyed great pleasure. So that was Vrindavan. Now comes Govardhan Hill. In Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, which is glorified in these words. The Puranas call Lord Krishna by the name Gokuleshwara, the master of Gokula. This confirms the truth that Gokula is Lord Krishna's abode. Gokula is also the abode of the Surabhi cows. Govardhan Hill is the shelter of Krishna and his cows. It is also said, Manasa Ganga and Govardhan are considered two different places in the realm of the three worlds. However, I think, this is Madhukanta from Gopal Champu, I think they are the same. And they are the same flood of love for Lord Krishna that has entered this world. It is also said, the two lakes, Radha Kund and Shama Kund, are the lovers' meeting of Sri Radha Krishna. I think the sweet fragrances at those lakes are actually Sri Radha Krishna's embraces. The breezes are Radha Krishna's sighs and trembling, and the water is seen in those lakes as Radha Krishna's love melted into nectar. About the Jamuna it is said, this is all quotes from Gopal Champu, to one who simply bathes in her waters, Yamuna gives the power to see Lord Krishna. To one who sees her, the Yamuna gives the sweetness of Lord Krishna's abode. Here is a guess about Yamuna's true identity. Is the Yamuna a single drop of perspiration from Lord Krishna's body? Is the Yamuna's love for Lord Krishna love that has assumed the form of a dark river? The Yamuna's banks manifest great bliss and love. This is part of the style for a champu. Little statement, and then singing, then a little statement, and then singing, just to weave the theme of the mood that's being desired. Gazing on the Yamuna's shore, the wise devotees have a vision of Lord Krishna's nectar rasa dance pastimes. Did the Yamuna sprinkle on her shores a divine elixir in the form of grains of sand? A banyan tree makes our hearts tremble. How can I describe the love of a certain banyan tree? How can I describe the love a certain banyan tree feels for Lord Krishna? When Lord Krishna disappeared from this world, that tree thought, this is the Bandira tree, let Govardhan Hill and the other places stay in this world in their partial expansions. I have no power to stay. Then that tree disappeared from this world. He asked a question about this the other day. There's the answer. Look at the deep love Vrindavan forest feels. Sometimes Lord Krishna's forest becomes stunned like a motionless mountain. Sometimes that forest trembles, its leaves and petals moving. Sometimes pushing out many new sprouts, that forest sometimes stands with hairs on its body erect in ecstasy. Why would Lord Krishna and his multitude of associates not wish to appear in that land of Vrindavan? We see their appearance in Vrindavan as very appropriate. Some pundits say the land of Vraja is named for the multitudes, or Vraja, of the Lord's associates. In Srimad Bhagavatam 10.5.18 it is said, "O Maharaj Parikshit, the home of Nanda Maharaj is eternally the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his transcendental qualities, and is therefore always naturally endowed with opulence of all wealth. Yet, beginning from Lord Krishna's appearance there, it became the place for the pastimes of the goddess of fortune." Following the Padma Purana's description of the Lord's advent in this world, I will soon describe the Lord's entrance, kalpa after kalpa, into the land of Vrindavan, a delightful, beautiful, opulent land where the Lord killed many crooked demons with dangerous fangs. Because it is never touched by the material bodies or minds of the residents of the material world, because it is filled with kadamba trees and many other kinds of glorious trees and plants, elaborately described in the Varaha Purana and other scriptures, and because within its borders, Lord Krishna enjoys many eternal nectar pastimes with Balaram, the Gopas, and the Surabhi cows, elaborate descriptions of which may be heard in the Skanda Purana and other scriptures, it should be understood that the glory and beauty of Vrindavan has no limit. Indeed, Vrindavan is outside the realm of the material world. Vrindavan is described in these words by Lord Krishna himself from the Gautamiya Tantra. Krishna says, "Vrindavan is my delightful abode. When they die, the cows, birds, deer, animals, human beings, and demigods who reside in Vrindavan go to my eternal spiritual abode." That was stated in Vishnu Purana, now it's again Gautamiya Tantra. Gautamiya Tantra goes on. Many gopi girls also reside here in Vrindavan, great yoginis. They eternally serve me with devotion. This 40-mile forest of Vrindavan is my own transcendental form. Flowing with nectar, the Yamuna is the transcendental Shushumna chakra. Shushumna chakra we described. It's from the heart to the top of the head. It's a channel which yogis know how to move their soul and go to the spiritual world. It's a channel of the nervous system called the Sushumna channel. So that's the river Jamuna. Is like that. there. Manifesting spiritual forms, the demigods and sages stay in this abode of Vrindavan. I, the master of all the demigods, never leave this forest. Yuga after yuga, I appear in this abode, and then again I disappear. Material eyes have no power to see this glorious and delightful world of Vrindavan, the realm of Gokula, which is full of all glories and opulences, which, as we will describe later in this book, by following the descriptions of Srimad Bhagavatam, is the place where the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is an ocean of mercy, after leaving his ocean abode, entered, and which is Lord Krishna's own abode and the abode of his eternal cowherd people, which is the place where, by entering and then leaving the waters of delightful Brahma Lake, and by revealing his Vaikuntha opulences to Akrura, and by accepting the prayers of the Vedas personified, Lord Krishna revealed the truth of his human-like pastimes in Vrindavan and filled his associates with wonder, and where even now the wise devotees take shelter and directly see the Supreme Lord's pastimes, and where, according to Hari Vangsha's description of Govinda Abhishek, after the Govardhan Lila, there was an Abhishek. Surabhi came with Indra, and Surabhi performed Abhishek, and the collected Abhishek water became Govinda Kund, which is still there in Vrindavan by the side of the Govardhan hill. King Indra came to understand that Kṛṣṇa is the all-pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead, and which, including its forest of Vrindavan and the surrounding area, some say is situated in the spiritual sky far above the coverings of the material world, and where the devotees take shelter of the spiritual ground where Lord Krishna enjoyed many pastimes, and where, this is a long sentence, and where Lord Krishna manifested his spiritual form, a form described in Brahma Samhita and other scriptures, is the abode where Lord Krishna enjoys many manifest and unmanifest pastimes described in many scriptures. The abode of Gokula is described in Brahma Samhita, which affirms all of the above. So, some days ago we read a similar translation. This is not the same, but similar translation. And those verses are from Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, the very Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo, those verses that come at the end of Brahma's prayers. Those prayers are describing Vrindavan. Those of you that are familiar with Chaitanya Charitamrita, it must be happening sometime soon. After Rath Yatra, Lord Jagannath stays in the Gundicha temple. He stays there for 9 days, and then there's a procession coming back. So in between, each day there's a festival. And one of those festivals is Hera Panchami. And Hera Panchami is a festival where the 4th day, I think, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, leaves the temple in a big celebration, riding a jeweled palanquin. She comes out of the temple, and big fanfare and people playing musical instruments and beating drums, and then she goes in a haughty mood to demand that Jagannath comes back. He's been away from his home, and Lakshmi wants him back. So that's Hera Panchami. So and it's purposeful that it's done with great splendor, because Gundicha represents Vrindavan. So Krishna leaves the Jagannath temple and goes to Vrindavan, because the Jagannath temple represents Dwarka, or opulence. Dwarka is a place of opulence, just like Srila Prabhupada named the Los Angeles temple New Dwarka. He wanted it to be a very opulent place, and so the deity he named Rukmini Dwarkadish, at New Dwarka. So Dwarka is the place of opulence, and Jagannath resides at Purushottam Kshetra, a place of opulence, where he's opulently worshipped. But in his heart, he's longing to be in Vrindavan. So he leaves the temple and goes to Vrindavan. It's the commemorating the mood of the gopis placing Krishna on a chariot in Kurukshetra to take him back to Vrindavan. So she lets him go, but after the fourth day, she wants him back. And so it's a festival celebrating Lakshmi's making her demand, not just request. And while watching that Hera Panchami festival, Srivas Pandit in our Panchatattva, Srivas, you know who is Srivas? Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. So Srivas is in the mood of Krishna's devotee Narada Muni. And Narada Muni, his mood, he's a Brijbasi mood, Vaishnav. So he likes the opulence of Vaikuntha. Now he has the capacity, because he's endowed with this capacity, he can go anywhere. So one time he visits Dwarka, and he's astonished to see what he sees in Dwarka. You know what he sees in Dwarka? He sees the 16,108 palaces where Krishna is simultaneously in each of the palaces with each of the queens, doing different things at the same time during different times of the day at the same time of the day. And Narada goes, wow. And that's Krishna in Dwarka. And so when Srivas Pandit sees the Hera Panchami festival, he speaks with an ecstatic mood. Just see the opulence of my goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. Why, any opulence found in Vrindavan is nothing compared to this opulence. And he says it really loud in front of all the followers of Lord Chaitanya, including Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya smiles and says, Srivas, you're in the mood of Narada Muni. And then he turns to one of his associates, I believe it's Swarup Damodar, and says, Swarup Damodar, what do you have to say about this? And Swarup Damodar says in Bengali the same thing that it says in those verses from Brahma Samhita. The opulence of Vrindavan is unequaled. Although it looks simple, all the trees are desire trees. And all the cows are Surabhi cows, and there's unlimited numbers of Surabhi cows. And all the abodes are built with spiritual gems that are wish-fulfilling gems, and etc., etc., etc. He describes the nature of the abode of Vrindavan, and it's so glorious. And Srivas Pandit, he is happy to be defeated. And it says he slaps his armpits and makes a funny sound, and everyone laughs. He was ecstatic just hearing the glories of Vrindavan Dham. So that's what's being quoted here also. And then in the early verses of Brahma Samhita, the first verse, we know the invocation verse, Ishvara Parama Kṛṣṇa Satchitananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. But then the next verses are describing the abode of Vrindavan. And they're not being quoted in this particular rendering, but we read it previously. Let's just, for fun, we'll go there to Brahma Samhita. Those verses. No, here it is. Yeah. The spiritual places of the transcendental pastimes of Kṛṣṇa is portrayed in this second verse. This is just translation from Brahma Samhita text 2. The super excellent station of Kṛṣṇa, which is known as Gokula, has thousands of petals and a corolla like that of a lotus, sprouted from a part of his infinitary aspect. The wheel of the whirl, there we go. The whirl of the leaves being the actual abode of Kṛṣṇa. Hang on a second. Yeah, 4 and 5. The whirl of that eternal realm, Gokula, is the hexagonal abode of Kṛṣṇa. What's a hexagonal abode of Kṛṣṇa mean? Hexagon is a six-sided figure. In the commentary, it explains, one of the Gayatri mantras that Brahma receives, that we also receive when we receive Brahminical initiation, is a hexagonal mantra. It's described in the Bhaktisiddhanta's purport. And it's describing the abode of Kṛṣṇa in mantra form, and it's describing the Sambandha Abhideya and Prayojana features of Kṛṣṇa in his own abode in a mantra form. You can read it later if you like, it's text 4. So his abode is described through mantra, and it's being described here in Brahma Samhita. Its petals are the abodes of the gopis, who are part and parcel of Kṛṣṇa, to whom they are most lovingly devoted and are similar in essence. The petals, Krishna's abode, Kṛṣṇa Loka, the petals shine beautifully like so many walls. The extended leaves of that lotus are the garden-like dham, that is, the spiritual abode of Sri Radhika, the most beloved of Kṛṣṇa. And text 5, it's a long text. The surrounding external plane of Gokula is described in this verse. There is a mysterious quadrangular place named Svetadweep, surrounding the outskirts of Gokula. Quadrangular place, quadrangular means four sides. And there's 4 parts in that quadrangular area. The abodes of Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradumna, and Aniruddha are separately located in each of these 4 parts. These 4 divided abodes are enveloped by the 4-fold human requirements, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. And also, and it goes on. So, the whole of the spiritual world has everything in its spiritual essence, and then here is a reflection of that spiritual essence. Quote. It's very detailed. It's a long verse with many, many details describing what Kṛṣṇa Loka is like, what's there. So our acharyas like describing Vrindavan. They like meditating upon Kṛṣṇa, and one of the ways to meditate upon Kṛṣṇa is his favorite place. When he goes there, he becomes very enlivened. And when he comes there, those who are there become very enlivened. They're ecstatic devotees, but by his flute playing and by his walking and his showing his form and so forth, like this description of the rivers. When Kṛṣṇa took the cows to lakes or to rivers, and as he approached the river or the lake, he would play upon his flute. So when the rivers saw Kṛṣṇa approaching, the waves were like their arms stretching into the air to receive some particles of dust from Kṛṣṇa's feet. And then when he blew upon his flute or played upon his flute, they become stunned and motionless. The waves stopped, the rivers stopped flowing. They're in meditation upon Kṛṣṇa. And he's just having a pastime of going to have the cows take some water and playing on his flute. But it's a reciprocation of ecstatic love in different ways. So he's enjoying the banks of the river Jamuna, and they're enjoying his presence. And it's a mutual, reciprocal, loving exchange with each of the entities, the trees and the creepers and the birds and the peacocks. When the peacocks hear Krishna's flute, they start dancing madly. And all the other creatures, seeing the mad dancing of the peacocks, hearing Krishna's flute, they become stunned. And tears start. When you see someone exhibiting ecstasy, it influences others who see that person having ecstasy. As their prema increases, it increases the prema of all the other living entities. So it's just a grand festival. And Krishna is stimulating their ecstatic love, and the place, Vrindavan, Govardhan, and the river Jamuna is stimulating Krishna's ecstatic love. It's a very special place. And he exhibits very confidential and sweet pastimes, emphasis on this word sweetness, madhurya pastimes, that just are not found elsewhere. In Vaikuntha, we don't find Lord Narayan going to a river and playing upon a flute and etc. I mean, there's different features of the one Supreme Lord, but the sweetness aspect of that one Supreme Lord is so special in Vrindavan. It's to make a worldly example understood. Prabhupada gives the example of a VIP in their office or their place of work or something like that. There's all these formalities, and they have a big desk and pomp and splendor, and big deal to get to see them. But in the intimacy of their exchanges in the home with their family members, they're not so that's not the pomp and splendor. There's an intimacy amongst the family members and the close associates. And even those that aren't family members, let's say the VIP has a chauffeur or something, or doorman or something. And there's an intimacy between the chauffeur and the VIP that other people don't have access to because he's the chauffeur. But because they're in such close proximity and dealings regularly, an intimacy unfolds. Naturally so. Naturally so, if the person is not just a snobby person. So Krishna is not a snobby person. Even those that are doing the simplest little things, like this little example of the bees. Krishna is wearing all these at different times of day, different garlands. And the garlands have wonderful fragrance, and especially the tulsi. So that the bees have this acumen, this capacity to seek the fragrance of his garland, and what to speak of him. And as they're coming to the garland, they're buzzing. And their buzzing is at a certain pitch, so Krishna plays his flute according to the pitch. And then they change the pitch, and he changed the pitches. It's a concert of loving exchange, and even with the bees. So bees are a nuisance, but not in Vrindavan. It's part of Krishna's festivities. And here comes a demon, and everyone, so Krishna, don't worry, he tightens his belt, and yay, Krishna took care of the demon. Let's go have lunch. It's a very different place, very mysterious place. His majesty is still there, his power, his ability to protect and maintain and support, and all those things that superior does with an inferior. The living entities are still fully dependent upon him, but there's a sweetness far beyond the majesty of Vaikuntha. Very special. So hearing it again and hearing it again and hearing it again helps us to more deeply appreciate the very simple gift, very complete gift that the followers of Lord Chaitanya want to give to the world. We just say, chant and be happy. And it's true, not false. But what's happy? And then one can start to understand what real happiness is, at least theoretically. There's a devotee in China that one of the translators that struggles with chanting. I mean, they're a really nice devotee and so forth and so on. They love serving, so forth and so on. But they really struggle with chanting. I mean, they chant, but they struggle with chanting. And it's been going on for quite some time. And it's like they're not giving in, but they struggle with chanting and struggle with chanting. So recently I received a letter that they were just trying and trying and trying and trying, and then they realized suddenly, I can't do this on my own, and they felt hopeless. Not that they stopped trying in that feeling of hopelessness, but that just the feeling of, I'm doing this, the kartaham left them, and they felt hopeless. And then all of a sudden they felt Krishna lifting them up. They kept chanting, and they felt a happiness that they had never known before. And it went for the duration of their 16 rounds. And looking forward to what the next day going to be like. And my guess is the next day is going to be struggle again. Because, it's the mind. and the tendency of the mind to dominate the heart. And sometimes the mind slackens and the heart comes out. And that's the gift of Lord Chaitanya, to bring one to that place where there's reciprocation with Krishna that we ordinarily don't have access to. And just because, we're caught in the fruitive consciousness. I'm going to share something because it comes to mind, and we'll see if there's some discussion. Starting here in Chicago, next weekend, we're conducting a virtual festival of the Holy Name. Some persons will be able to attend some portions, but the rest is going to be all virtual. And, a couple of highlights. Please, if you don't catch everything else, catch Ravindra Swarup Prabhu is going to be in upstate New York giving us a live, whatever he's going to do, live stream presentation on how Shikshastaka is a meditation on the Holy Name and improving our absorption in the Holy Name, because that's what he's been doing for the past 2 years. So, and he's a really brilliant speaker, so tune in. And then another is the process of bhakti, sadhana bhakti, is excavation of the awakening of knowledge. And he's a good speaker. So from that festival of the Holy Name, it turned into this place and that place and the other place saying, can you have a japa retreat, or called it different things. So one time, this is in New Jersey, we had our 64 round day. And one man came afterwards. I was preparing for the Sunday lecture, sitting in a little office space. And he just, knocked on the door and came right in without even saying, come on in. He was really enthusiastic. And he introduced himself. He said, I just want to share. So I just kind of sat there because he wanted to share. And he said, I've been around the Hare Krishna movement for something like 13 years. And I've never really been able to get my chanting together. At most, I chanted 4 rounds, and usually it wasn't so steady anything. And I thought I probably would have some opportunity to increase and experience chanting in a different way if I came to one of these events, but the japa retreats were always far away, but this one is right in the temple. So I came, kind of like, let me see what happens, kind of thing. Because he hasn't chanted more than 4 rounds. And then nothing steadily for over so many years. But, that gives a description of his attraction for chanting. And so he sat down he heard the presentation, so he sat down, let me try. So he said, I chanted eight of the first 16 rounds, and it went, it was more than I had ever chanted before. But it was a little challenging. And then I just, I was struggling, and I just decided, let me just get immersed in the Holy Name. And then something happened. I felt myself being lifted up. And I was like floating in the sky, or floating on waves in the sea. And it was such an exhilarating feeling. And I didn't want to stop for lunch because I thought it might interrupt everything. And so I skipped lunch. But then I got hungry. So that euphoria that I had felt got interrupted with lunch, and then I came back, and the same mood wasn't there. And I struggled, and I struggled, and I struggled to get into that same mood, and it wasn't there. And I threw my hands up in the air and said, Kṛṣṇa, you can do with me what you like. And as soon as that mood came, I got lifted up again. And it lasted through the whole, and I chanted 64 rounds. And I never felt, 13 years. I just wanted to share that with you. So, that's a nice story of an ordinary person. I mean, an Indian man, pious and so forth, attracted to bhakti, but not really sadhaka. But for such a person, Kṛṣṇa can carry that person to a realm that they never even knew existed and may never for the rest of their life ever experience. But that's just like feeling light. What to speak of feeling Krishna's presence? And we're being invited into that. That's Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. With our, engaging in kirtan festivals and kirtan before the worship of the deity, and hearing of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and the ABCs of sadhana bhakti. But it's all meant to take us to Vrindavan. So it's nice to know where the train's going when you get on the train. And then you can see, out the window, there's this place and there's that place as you're passing on the train route. Different stages. Just stay with the process and have as Krishna is being stimulated by his exchanges with the different entities, different devotees of his in Vrindavan Dham, and they're being inspired by his presence and coming to greet them and receive them and uplift them. Our hearing about those things are also stimulations for ecstatic love, although we're not so qualified. And it strikes the heart differently according to the openness and purity of the heart. But the process is very nice, very sublime, and very powerful. We're just a little dull, but still, even we're a little dull. It's very different. The feeling is very different. The experience, conscious experience, is very different. Okay, so let's see if there's some discussion. Because I started a little late, I didn't say what I would want to say. The procedure has been, the people that are assembled, you have not only an opportunity but a responsibility to ask some questions. Because then it gives the people that are, listening remotely to send in a text message, and then we'll read out their questions. So if there's any discussion from anyone in the room here.
Hare Kṛṣṇa Maharaj.
You're on. The microphone is on. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hare Kṛṣṇa Maharaj. My name is Ramana. I've been attending these classes and trying to understand about the whole process of Bhagavad Gita, and from a very, very minuscule understanding, Supreme Lord Godhead, He has all the opulences and all the power, and yet He had to go through a shrap towards the end of Dwapar Yuga, and His end has come through an arrow towards his.
Could you turn the speaker towards me because it sounds a little echoey? Go ahead. Keep going.
So my question is, although Lord Krishna, he is the creator of everybody.
He's the
still-
source of everything.
He is the source of everything, and still, towards the end of Dwapar Yuga, his end has come through a strap from a mother. So why is it like that?
Slap?
A curse. A curse. A mother had cursed.
Oh, Gandhari's curse?
Yeah.
Oh. It's pastime. It's, our acharyas specifically say about that. Krishna was happy. Krishna is in the heart of Gandhari, inspiring Gandhari to speak the way that Gandhari spoke. When Kaikeyi spoke the way that Kaikeyi spoke, what prompted her? Super soul. Lord Ramachandra wanted her to do what she did.
So if that were the case, even Krishna was prompting Kamsa and Ravana also the same way?
Nothing happens without the sanction of the Supreme Lord. Not a blade of grass. What to speak of Kamsa and every, Ravana. And nothing happens without the sanction of the Supreme Lord. When he's coming to, specifically, when he comes to perform pastimes, it's all an orchestration of Leela. And there are different players that are providing, enjoyment for him. And including those that are in opposition to him.
I think I understood, but still not fully understood.
Well,
Which is
does the living entity have free will? Yes or no? Yes.
I think yes.
You think yes.
Because that also is created by Krishna only.
That's an indication of free will, that you think so. So free will gives the option of love. But free will also gives the option of no love. I can say no. I don't have to say yes. Otherwise, it's not free will. Love is voluntary. And then one can say no, and that's also voluntary. So those that there's divine and demoniac nature. So those persons that have demoniac nature, they're exercising their free will, and Krishna is sanctioning their exercise of free will. But at a certain point, it becomes too much. So he liberates them. He relieves them of all the reactions of the sins and liberates them. But it's pastime. He comes for pritranaya sadhuna, vinashaya chaduskritam, etc. So when he comes, it's different than when he doesn't come. When he doesn't come, it's still the law is there, the law of God. And then when he comes, he's, making the exception to the law. He's liberating these people that misuse their free will, and he's taking those that are sadhu close to him again. That's why he went to the forest. The Dandak forest is to give association to the sages who are meditating upon him. Instead of just meditating upon him, he came before them, like Vishnu did with Dhruva. And they were ecstatic, like Vishnu was ecstatic when he saw Lord Vishnu standing before him. But it's instead of just a yogi in meditation, he's performing Leela. And then, then Shurpanakha does what she does, which causes, because up until that point, now this is Ram Leela, but for 12 and a half years, Krishna hadn't killed any of the demons. So the prompt was for Krishna to start killing demons, for 14,000 of them, just like that. Because of what Shurpanakha did, and then the rest, and then the rest. It's Leela. but to perform his purpose in coming. Pratranaya sadhanam vinashaya chadusk. So, when he goes to Vrindavan, there's still some demons, but the main emphasis is the sweetness of loving exchange with those devotees that they're totally, this is Brahma. And Brahma's, way up there in qualification of this world. And he sees the total dedication that the resident of Vrindavan has, and he wishes to become just a blade of grass, that they may step on him, all the residents of Vrindavan. How exalted. So then is that, back to your question?
Yeah. Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
You're okay. Does that address your question?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. When King Dharma know playing a dice game is a adharma, why he played?
Who did?
King Dharma. 5 Pandavas.
Oh. Well, there's external and there's internal. There's evident and there's not so evident. The evident is a Kshatriya is one who, when challenged, will always meet the challenge. So it can be in combat, or it can be in sporting, which is a kind of combat. So it's a kind of challenge. So he accepted the challenge. That's what a Kshatriya does. Now that's the external. And, apparently, I'm not, a savant on what the boundaries of what Kshatriyas can and cannot do as far as Manu Samhita and everything. But apparently they would also do sporting things, engage in those kinds of things, not just military combat, but sporting activity. So that was what it was considered. And the deeper, the not so apparent one is Kṛṣṇa wanted something. So he did what he did because Kṛṣṇa wanted something, not because Kṛṣṇa leaned over and said, "Hey, you just here." But so the purpose would be the adharmic persons would be in conflict with the dharmic persons, and Kṛṣṇa would take the side of Dharma and annihilate them. So Kṛṣṇa can annihilate them without anybody's help. Poof, they're gone. But it's a Leela that which his dear devotee, Yudhisthira, not only he's Dharma personified, but he's Krishna's dear devotee. So Krishna's using him as an instrument to fulfill Krishna's purposes. And then Arjuna can be his instrument to relieve the earth of the burden of demoniac kings, which Krishna promised Mother Earth he would do. And so the Kurukshetra battle was for that purpose. And to have the Kurukshetra battle, there was this, there's many little events that lead up to that, this is one of them. And there's other parts. I mean, it's the purpose. When Krishna does one thing, he's doing so many things at the same time. Like, another one of the mysteries is when the gambling included Draupadi, and Draupadi was dragged out into the assembly, and Draupadi spoke to all the exalted persons present, including Grandfather Bhishma. Is this allowable in Dharma, that you can gamble your wife? And besides that, I'm married to 5 men. Can one of the 5 men place me so can you speak? And Bhishma was silent. And Dronacharya was silent. They knew, but they didn't speak. So why did they speak? Krishna wanted to show, this is what Prabhupada writes, it's in the Bhagavatam. Krishna wanted to show, no matter how exalted you are, you can be a Mahajan, Grandfather Bhishma, and you don't protect women, and you'll be destroyed. So Krishna wanted to show that. Draupadi was protected. by Kṛṣṇa. But, Bhishma could have done it right then. It's over. And he was powerful enough, if anybody opposed his word, he would have smashed him. His grandfather, he could beat Parshuram. What to speak of anybody else? He could have stopped, full stop. He didn't. Kṛṣṇa wanted to show something. So it's not, the apparent and the not so apparent don't always match. Mystery, right?
4 regulative principles. One is a gambling we have to avoid. When we follow 4 regulative principles, right?
Yeah.
So when we
But it's not the same for I don't know the details of Manu Samhita, what is permitted, but what's permitted for a Kshatriya is some types of sporting activities that they're obliged. It's dharma for them to do. It's not like going to a casino. It's competition between rivals, and they have competition of different things, sporting activity. Okay? Look at this.
Why does Brahma have 4 heads?
Why does Brahma have 4 heads? Why do you have just one?
I don't know.
Do you know the story? Put the microphone down. Do you know the story of Kṛṣṇa inviting Brahma to come see him in Dwarka? Do you know that story? One time, it's in the Kṛṣṇa book. But one time, Kṛṣṇa invited Brahma to come see him in Dwarka, and Brahma's going, wow, Kṛṣṇa wants to see me. Even though I offended him in Vrindavan, Kṛṣṇa wants to see me. So he came, and he reported to the person, the gatekeeper, the door, the person at the door, Kṛṣṇa has called me, I've come. And he said, you just wait, let me see if Kṛṣṇa is available. So he waited. The doorkeeper came back and said, Kṛṣṇa wants to know which Brahma. And Brahma said, what do you mean, which Brahma? Tell him I'm the 4-headed Brahma, the father of the 4 Kumaras. So he said, okay, just wait. And so he's waiting, and then Kṛṣṇa said, come on in. So he goes in to see Kṛṣṇa, and as he's going in to see Kṛṣṇa, he can see all the other Brahmas from all the other universes coming, and some have 10 heads. Some have 100 heads. Some have 1,000 heads, 10,000 heads, and a lot of heads. Must look really funny. Try to be an artist making that painting. And it's described that as they came, they didn't see each other. Only one Brahma saw all of them, the 4-headed Brahma. And they placed their helmets, they had, king's helmets, at the feet of Kṛṣṇa, made a big sound. Because metal hitting the floor made a big sound. And then they offered their obeisances to Kṛṣṇa, and Kṛṣṇa thanked them for coming to see them, and he dismissed them. And then invited the 4-headed Brahma to come before him. And he said, what can I do for you? He said, I think you've just done it. You showed me how insignificant I am. Now, your question specifically was why he has 4 heads. And there's 2 explanations that I can offer. One is this is a small universe compared to the other universes, much larger, and the Brahmas have more heads. But another explanation is that's why only 4 instead of 10 or 100 or something. But the second explanation is when he was born on the lotus from Garbhodakshay Vishnu, he looked in all four directions to see where he was. There's four cardinal, it's called cardinal directions. You know, north, south, east, west, cardinal directions. He looked in all four directions at once. He manifested four heads. We can look north and south and east and west, but not all. He can do it at the same time. Krishna's arrangement for him. That's why. Why? Because Krishna's arrangement for him. Okay? Something more. Go ahead.
I got one more question. Why did Krishna eat dirt?
Why does Krishna eat dirt?
Who told you Krishna ate dirt?
I watched it in Listening Krishna.
Well, you asked Krishna if he ate dirt, and he said, they're liars. But whether he ate dirt or didn't eat dirt, the reason was Krishna wanted Mother Jasoda to scold him. He tried to get her to scold him by stealing butter. And she just smiled and embraced him and said, why do you do these things? But he wanted that loving feature of Mother Jasoda to scold him. Because when Mother Jasoda scolds Krishna, it's out of love. He wanted that emotional exchange with her, loving exchange with her. She didn't scold him. So he did something that she would scold him. Whether he ate dirt or didn't eat dirt, the reason was he wanted Mother Jasoda's love in that form, scolding him. So she scolded him. You ate dirt? And Krishna said, I didn't eat dirt, they're liars. And she said, why would they lie? They're not enemies. They're your friends. And there's Balaram, your elder brother, he's not going to lie. I didn't eat dirt. It's a pastime. Do you like Radharani? No, just leave her the microphone. Do you like Radharani?
Yes.
Yes, me too. And did you know that Radharani, when she cooks, the cooking never tastes the same twice. Every time she cooks, it's something new. And not only that, those who eat her cooking will live a long life and never become unhealthy. Did you know that? Did you know that? Well, Mother Jasoda knew that. That's why she asked that Radha, even a little girl, like you, even littler, would come and cook for Krishna. And that came as a benediction from Durvasa Muni. You know who was Durvasa Muni, right? Durvasa Muni, Maharaj Ambarish, who cursed fiery demon chasing at Maharaj Ambarish, right? You know the story? So Durvasa Muni is like a heavy guy. And Durvasa Muni one time came to visit Vrindavan. And when he came to Vrindavan, the gopis saw Durvasa Muni and they ran to greet him. Oh, Durvasa Muni, how fortunate you've come to Vrindavan. Is there some service we can do for you? Because he's a Brahmana, exalted person. And he said, yes, I've been fasting for a long time and I'm very hungry. I'd like something to eat right now. And the gopis said, well, we'll have to go back to our homes to prepare something. We'll come back really quickly. And Durvasa Muni said, you don't understand. I want something right now. And they're in the middle of a field. So Radharani took some water and some dust of Vrindavan, mixed it together and made some biscuits. Right there in the field. And the gopis gave a biscuit to Durvasa Muni to eat. And Durvasa Muni said, what? You expect me to eat this? And the gopi said, you don't understand, Radharani is very gifted and just try one. He looked at the biscuit and looked at Radharani and he took a bite and it was delicious. So Durvasa Muni gave this benediction to Radha that said, dear Radha, whatever you cook for the rest of your life, it'll always taste different. It's never going to be the same. And anyone who eats your cooking will live a long life and will always remain very healthy. So the girls went home and told their parents, wow, guess what happened today? We saw Durvasa Muni. And Radharani was given this benediction by Durvasa Muni. So you know the name of Radharani's mother? Kirtida. Right? You remember now, Kirtida. Kirtida. So Kirtida and Mother Dasoda were friends. So Kirtida told Mother Dasoda, you know what happened today? Radharani got this benediction from Durvasa Muni. And Yasoda said, can you have your daughter cook for Kṛṣṇa every day? So from the time she was a little girl, every morning, she came with her gopi friends. There was a special kitchen where she and her gopi friends cooked breakfast for Kṛṣṇa every day. And that continued, it continued. So Durvasa Muni ate dirt. Or he ate one of Radharani's biscuits. It was the dust of Vrindavan. But we don't know if Kṛṣṇa ate dirt or not. Because he said he didn't. But Balaram said he did. So we don't know. But the pastime was because Kṛṣṇa wanted Mother Dasoda's love in the form of being scolded. Now maybe you do some naughty things sometimes because you want your mother and father to scold you. Maybe not. But if you were Kṛṣṇa, you might do that. Okay? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I have 4 questions.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The first thing is, just now I was hearing that Jagannath Puri representing the opulence like Dwaraka.
Yes.
So I was just wondering, we hear that Ayodhya, Vrindavan, Mathura are there in the spiritual worlds. So whether we have Govardhan and Puri Jagannath in the spiritual world?
No,
in
not-
Vaikuntha or...
Not Puri. My understanding is no, but I may be wrong. It's opulent like. Well, let me think more carefully. It's opulent like Dwarka, therefore Purushottam Kshetra is opulent like Dwarka, but there's a particular feature of mood that is Krishna's separation from the residents of Vrindavan. That's why he's in that form, the Jagannath form. Krishna's ecstasy and separation from Vrindavan. Now, is there a Puri place in the spiritual world, Dwarka? Well, the Purushottam Kshetra Dham is eternal. It is eternal. When this world is destroyed, that's not destroyed. But what it looks like when it's not destroyed, as opposed to what it looks like today, I'm sure it's different. But the mood certainly must be there in Krishna's pastimes in Goloka or Krishna Loka. But how it's situated, I've not heard anything. I know how I can ask that question, and he'll know a proper answer, not just the local people say all kinds of things, but a proper answer. Go ahead.
The second one is, please correct me if I have heard correctly, Maharaj. Desire trees are part of Goloka only?
What's that?
Desire trees? Or is it part of Vaikuntha also?
They don't have desire trees in Vaikuntha, to my knowledge. It's in Krishna Loka.
Okay. Third question. You were talking about Gayatri Mantra, how it explains Vrindavan.
Well, one of our Gayatri mantras is a mantra depicting Vrindavan. It's a hexagonal mantra depicting Vrindavan.
So my follow-up question, which is not directly related, but how does it differentiate a devotee when he is second initiated with the Gayatri Mantra and the one who do not? Is there any progress difference? What is the difference?
It's just access to, through mantra, access to details or aspects of Krishna through mantra. So it's a more mature stage of chanting, that those that have yet to receive Gayatri Mantra. It's the less mature evolving of Krishna consciousness, and the Gayatri Mantra through mantra gives access to further details of features of Krishna's presence in Vrindavan. It's just a refinement and further elevation of consciousness opportunity. It doesn't mean that people that don't have Gayatri Mantra cannot become elevated in consciousness. That would be a very mistaken understanding.
Yes, Maharaj.
Everything needed is in the Hare Krishna mantra. Say it that way. And through elevation of consciousness through the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then one may become assisted in understanding further refinements of Krishna through Gayatri Mantra. But the holy name alone is sufficient.
The last one here, you gave a very nice example, Maharaj, about a train. We should know the goal of the train going, but we see on the side stations and stages. So if I put myself in that situation, I am in a Krishna conscious train and I see varieties of circumstances, kama, krodha, lobha, but I just don't see them and I continue. But I am influenced it very strongly. So how should I continue my journey without getting influenced and just see that?
Say the last part. I mean, the example is Prabhupada's example, and your question is, how do you, when these different distractions or circumstances arise, your question is, how do I stay on course and not distracted by those things?
Yes, Maharaj.
Well, with faith. The temporary circumstances that come and go, they're temporary circumstances. And I take I take responsible action in relation to those things, but that's not my all in all. My all in all is the journey towards the goal. Prabhupada speaks like this or writes like this in terms of Krishna consciousness, that he speaks of himself, that in propagating Krishna consciousness, many obstacles, but facing those obstacles, one must continue in the mission that has been assigned to him, with faith that the mission will be accomplished by the mercy of Krishna. So you deal with the circumstances in an appropriate way, without forgetting what... Commonly what happens to people is circumstances consume everything. Problem solving and so forth and so on. And the mission of life is obscured by the circumstances and all the time and energy and etc. that it takes to deal with them. So one has to be fixed on the goal. It has to be clear. In course of time it may become more and more clear, but clear what the goal is. What's this human mission? Why am I get a human form of life? What's it intended for? What's the mission of life? And when you have that clarity, then you deal with the temporary and you go on towards the mission of life. Okay, online? It's late, it's 8:30.
Only 3 questions. Question from Sanchari. I heard that Krishna actually never leaves Vrindavan, even though he appears to go to Mathura. If this is correct understanding, can you please elaborate on this?
Yeah. He enters the hearts of the residents of Vrindavan. He never leaves Vrindavan.
Second question. Does Krishna keep or play his flute outside of Vrindavan? If so, is the effect on those who hear is the same as that of the exalted residents of Vrindavan?
Who's asking that one?
Sanchari.
Oh boy. He can do whatever he wants, but there's no. When Gopakumar visits Dwarka, Gopakumar is carrying his flute. And when Krishna in Dwarka sees Krishna's flute, sees Gopakumar's flute, he becomes stunned. He doesn't play on his flute. He wants Gopakumar to play on his flute. But he doesn't. There's no indication of his playing on his flute outside of Vrindavan. That's his Vrindavan paraphernalia. He has other paraphernalia outside of Vrindavan for the happiness of the residents of those other places. No flute playing. It's not like he's restricted, he can't, but he's reciprocating with the particular type of love of the devotees in each place.
This question is from Kirtan, Lakshman Prabhu's son. Who is the father of every living entity? Is it Brahma or Krishna?
Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.